evening, everyone. Today we will present about adsorption experiment. I'm กิจกรกล้าหาญ
แอมทิยารัตนากุลอิทธิพัฒน์
แอมอนิสรณ์ชิ่งชวน
แอมพิชยานีลมยเวท
This presentation divided into 4 parts: introduction, theory, experiment, and analysis and conclusion. Introduction. Adsorption is a process to tap solvent or small substance that dissolve in water to the surface of another substance. Adsorption has both liquid, gas, solid, and liquid-solid system. The reason we choose this experiment because in this industrial, there are many use of the adsorption process. For example, the use of adsorption process in the treatment of polluted air released to nature, because there is a law specifying the quality of air to be released to nature. We need to treat the released air of the quality of it correct the law requirement. In this experiment, we concluded to study the process of gas adsorption using solid solvent. And the data obtained from the experiment can be used in the design of the operating unit. In this experiment, we study to different the height of the bed for each level in order to compare the efficiency of each level. I have done my part and I will pass it on to Ms. Tiarat.
Thank you, Mr. กิจกร Now we will talk about the theory of adsorption. Adsorption is a separation process in which certain components of a fluid phase are transferred to the surface of a solid adsorbent. Usually, the small particles of adsorbent are held in a fixed bed, and fluid is passed continuously through the bed until the solid is nearly saturated. Most adsorbents are highly porous materials, and adsorption takes place on the wall of the pores or at specific sites inside the particles. In case of adsorption equipment, we will focus on fixed-bed adsorber. This is a typical system used for adsorption of solvent vapors, is shown in figure. The adsorbent particles are placed in a bed. The fish guard passes down through one of the bed. Therefore, is preferred because a flow at high rates might fluidize the particles. The relationship between the proportion of the adsorbed concentration of the system and the concentration of the initial adsorption with the volume of the fluid or the operating time is known as the breakthrough curve. The break point is often taken as a relative concentration of 0.05 or 0.1. In this experiment, we can calculate saturation capacity from the proportion of the weight of solute and the weight of adsorbent. Now, I will pass you over to Mr. Adsorption.
Thank you, Ms. ชยรัตน์ I will talk about experiment. We need to know equipment and chemical. This picture is adsorption machine. Include blower to form more air from the bottle, pass through the column, and hygrometer at the top. The chemical used in this experiment is silica gel, has ability to absorb moisture from the air. Hygrometer is a moisture meter from the air. Stopwatch. Analytical balance to weigh the silica gel. And oven. The steps for experiment. First step. Find the percentage of moisture when the bed is saturated. First, load saturated silica gel into the column at the bed height of about 5 cm. Second, turn on the machine to allow the moist air to pass through the column. Third, record the output moisture percentage and pour silica gel out of the column. Second step, find the total humidity absorbed. First, take the saturated silica gel from the first step and bake the silica gel to remove moisture at the temperature of 110 degrees Celsius in the oven for 30 minutes and wet the silica gel. Second, load silica gel into the column at the bed height of about 5 cm and turn on the machine. Third, record humidity values at hygrometer every 30 seconds. And fourth, stop the experiment when the humidity percentage is equal to first step. Now, I will pass you over Ms. Pichani.
Thank you, Mr. Adison. So, in this section, we'll talk about the analysis and the conclusion. From the experimental results have been summarized in this graph. The title of this graph is Breakthrough Concentration Curve. This graph shows the plot of concentration ratio versus time. In the beginning, the line of the graph will decrease and will increase as the bed can absorb a lot of moisture that decreases rapidly. Shortly thereafter, the line of the graph will increase. The shortest breakpoint time is 32 of the height of the bed, 5 centimeters. The longest breakpoint time is 43 of the height of the bed, 15 centimeters. From the information in Table 1, when the height of the bed increased, the breakpoint time also increased. Due to the increased absorbed bed area, the bed absorption time is increased, and the saturation capacity shown in Table 1 can be calculated by the weight of the water absorbed divided by the weight of the adsorbent. From the previous slide, the saturation capacity depends on the water absorbed by the adsorbent. When the weight of the water absorbed increases, the saturation capacity also increases. The height of the bed affects the breakpoint time. As the adsorbent area increases, the breakpoint time will increase as well. The saturation ratio will increase until close to 1, meaning over time the adsorbent will become saturated and can no longer be absorbed. Therefore, to summarize the main point of my talk, adsorption is an effective way to remove toxic substances from the gas before releasing the gas into the environment. That brings the presentation to the end.
From all of the above, it should make every young understand the benefits of the adsorption process and factors affecting the adsorption process. We can see that the adsorption process is a simple process that can be applied to many things as mentioned above. The adsorption process can be performed in many systems. For example, as adsorption process for water treatment, adsorb moisture, and others. Thank you for your attention.